When suffering becomes a blessing, a faith perspective, suffering is one of the deepest mysteries of human life. Every person, at some point, encounters pain, loss, disappointment, or fear. From a purely human perspective, suffering often appears meaningless, unfair, and unbearable. Yet within the Catholic faith, suffering is not seen as pointless. Instead, it can become a hidden doorway to grace, transformation, and deeper union with God. What seems like a curse can become a blessing when viewed through the light of faith. The Christian understanding of suffering begins with the recognition that we live in a fallen world. Sin brought disorder into creation, and as a result, human life includes illness, injustice, heartbreak, and death. However, God did not abandon humanity to suffering. Instead, He chose to enter into it. This is the heart of the Christian message. God Himself experienced suffering. Because of this, suffering is no longer merely a sign of despair. It has been transformed into a path toward redemption. One of the most powerful truths in Catholic spirituality is that suffering can unite us with Christ. When believers endure pain with trust in God, their suffering takes on new meaning. It becomes a participation in the suffering of Jesus. This idea may seem difficult at first, but it reveals a profound mystery. God allows suffering not because He delights in pain, but because He can draw greater good from it. Through suffering, the soul can be purified, strengthened, and drawn closer to God. Consider how suffering reveals the fragility of human life. In moments of comfort and success, people often feel self-sufficient. They rely on their own strength, plans, and achievements. But when suffering enters, illusions of control disappear suddenly. The human heart realizes its need for God. Many saints have testified that their deepest spiritual growth began during periods of hardship. Pain forced them to pray more deeply, trust more fully, and surrender more completely. Suffering also teaches humility. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe. It breaks pride and softens the heart. A person who has suffered often becomes more compassionate, more patient, and more understanding of others. In this way, suffering becomes a school of love. Without it, many hearts would remain closed and self-focused. With it, hearts can become gentle and open to others' pain. Another blessing hidden within suffering is the growth of perseverance. Faith is easy when life is comfortable, but true faith is revealed during trials. When a person continues to trust God despite confusion or sorrow, their faith becomes stronger and more mature. Like gold refined by fire, the soul becomes purified through trials. What begins as pain can end as strength. Catholic teaching also speaks about redemptive suffering. This means that suffering, when offered to God, can become spiritually fruitful. It can be united with the sacrifice of Christ for the salvation of souls. This idea gives suffering a purpose that goes beyond the individual. A person's pain can become an act of love and intercession for others. In this way, suffering becomes a form of prayer. This perspective does not deny the reality of pain. Christianity does not pretend suffering is easy or pleasant. Jesus Himself wept, felt anguish, and cried out in distress. The Catholic faith fully acknowledges the emotional and physical weight of suffering. Yet it insists that suffering is not the final word. Hope always has the final word. Resurrection follows the cross. In everyday life, suffering often arrives in ordinary forms: illness, broken relationships, financial struggles, loneliness, or anxiety about the future. These experiences can make people feel abandoned or forgotten, but faith invites believers to see these moments differently. God is especially close to the broken-hearted. He works quietly within struggles, shaping the soul in ways that are invisible at first. One of the greatest blessings suffering can bring is a deeper relationship with God. When everything else is stripped away, prayer becomes more sincere. The heart speaks honestly, without pretense. In suffering, a person learns to rely not on circumstances, but on God's presence. This reliance builds a bond of trust that comfort alone cannot produce. Suffering can also awaken gratitude. After experiencing hardship, even small blessings appear brighter. A simple day of peace, a kind word, or a moment of joy feels precious. Pain sharpens awareness of grace. It teaches the soul to notice the gifts that once seemed ordinary. The saints often describe suffering as a hidden gift because it prepares the soul for heaven. Earthly life is temporary, but suffering helps detach the heart from temporary things and focus on eternal realities. It reminds believers that their ultimate home is not in this world. This shift in perspective brings freedom and hope. Ultimately, the Catholic view of suffering is rooted in love. God does not waste pain. He transforms it. What feels like darkness can become a path toward light. What feels like loss can lead to deeper spiritual riches. What feels like weakness can become strength. When suffering is embraced with faith, it becomes more than endurance, it becomes transformation. It deepens compassion, strengthens faith, purifies love, and draws the soul closer to God. In this way, suffering becomes a blessing, not because it is pleasant, but because it leads to something greater. The mystery of suffering remains profound and often difficult to understand, yet faith assures believers that no tear is meaningless. God sees every struggle, hears every prayer, and works through every trial. In the end, suffering does not have the final word, love does. Thank you for watching the video. If you found this video helpful, please like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Goodbye.